Lori Daybell had quite the year in 2019. In fact, she was quite the busy little beaver. And so was the rest of the cult, of course. From a data dump, there are documents showing that Lori took a minimum of 10 flights that year and a few road trips. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at the flights Lori took, where she went, who she went with, and the timing of them. So now, let's get into it. In the beginning of 2019, Lori had already met Chad Daybell. They met in person in October of 2018 at a Preparing a People event. Also, by this time, Chad and Lori already had some steamy sessions together while they were still married to their spouses, Tammy Daybell and Charles Vallow. And as a side note, later in 2019, Chad went down memory lane and expressed his scientific phenomenon known as his loin fire, those are his words, through text to Lori. 2019 was also the year of killings. The murder of Charles, Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. We also know in 2019, Alex died. Now let's get to Lori and her traveling adventures. In January of 2019, Lori and Charles moved into their home. Not long after that, Charles expressed how Lori had changed in her behavior, and others noticed as well. Charles said months later, "Things have changed so dramatically in the past 6 months. Something snapped. It is so unbelievable and scary. I'm thankful she doesn't see JJ. She wants him and for me to disappear. Seriously, it's the freakiest thing I've ever experienced. She's with a group of people called Woke and Preparing a People. She actually believes I'm not Charles. She says an evil spirit named Nick Schneider murdered me and is using me to violate her." Now, on January 22nd, Lori received the Dark and Light rubric from Chad Daybell. Now, it was believed for the longest time that she received this rubric in October of 2018, shortly after Chad and Lori met, but there was an honest mistake by reporters, and it was easily to be mistaken. The actual date is the 22nd of January. Now, by the end of January, so just a week later, Lori drained Charles's money from his business account, leaving him basically in a bind to pay his employees. And she also threatened Charles, saying that she was a god, she was assigned to carry out the work of the 144,000 at Christ's second coming, which she believed was July of 2020. She would have to murder him if he got in her way and tried to stop her, and she would also have an angel there to help dispose of his body. She said she knew Charles's real name was Nick Schneider. She said to Charles, "Nick is your real name. Nick killed Charles and has taken his identity." She said he'd have to go, and painfully. She also threatened to destroy him financially, which already she was doing. She also canceled his flight home from a business, stole his truck, gets rid of everything of his, right down to his underwear. You know, Happy New Year to him. She also took JJ's medicine, iPad, clothes, JJ's dog, Bailey's dog collar. And she goes on to change all the locks in the house. This is only January. Also, by the end of January, Lori leaves JJ and Charles and takes off somewhere where Charles nor JJ would know. She's gone for almost 60 days. And here is where begins Lori's vacation adventures. In February of 2019, this is flight number 1. On February 5th, according to a confidential source of Annie Cushing is the sister of Joseph Ryan, who is Lori's third husband. And this confidential source said that Lori flew to Salt Lake City and back on the 5th of February. On February 8th, Charles Vallow files for divorce. Now, on the 10th of February, flight number 2 happens. Lori flies from Arizona to Hawaii with Tylee Ryan. They fly back, and part of Lori's hiatus is spent at her brother and protector's house, Alex Cox. You might remember that Tylee talked about staying at her uncle's house and also sleeping with a bat. Now, when she and Tylee get back from Hawaii, she decides to take a trip with her good friend Melanie Gibb, and they go from the 15th of February to the 17th, and they travel to Boise, Idaho. Now, Chad Daybell is one of the speakers at a Preparing a People event on the 16th. It's just a one-day event. It's unclear, though, if this was a flight or a road trip. Now, during this trip, Charles believed that Lori would be at this event, and he tried to serve papers at the airport, a hotel, and the event, but was unsuccessful. And this isn't the first trip that Lori's taken with Melanie Gibb. Lori traveled before with her in October of 2018, when Lori first feasted her eyes on Chad Daybell and vice versa. Now, on March 1st, Charles files to dismiss the divorce proceedings. And just a few weeks after that is flight number 3. From March 19th to the 21st, Chad and Lori travel from Idaho Falls to Mesa, Arizona together. Now, it's interesting here because there isn't any information about how Lori got to Idaho Falls, only that Chad and Lori traveled together with Allegiant Airlines from Idaho to Arizona. Now, remember, Chad and Tammy are still married. And in that previous trip from February 15th to the 17th was the trip with Melanie to Idaho. And it was said it was only a 2-day trip. However, either Lori went back to Idaho or she stayed there and then flew with Chad back. So I'm very curious about this. I haven't seen anything to detail what happened and did she stay longer. And that would also mean that Tylee was left alone, which we know she was staying at Uncle Alex's house for a while. So I wonder if it's longer than we know. Let me know your thoughts. Now, flight number 4 then happens in April, in the mid-April, about the 11th is approximate. She flies to Houston to see Charles and JJ. Now that's where Charles ended up moving with JJ after Lori vanishes from their life, and Lori flies to Texas and meets up with Charles, only she's on a bit of a mission. Now, Melanie Gibb talked about this on Dateline, and this is what she said. When she first went to Texas, I'm like, why are you going to Texas? You're trying to run from him? So that's a good question, right? And now you're going back and moving back in with him? And she goes, well, I was told by the Lord I need to get his finances in order. We know why that is. In May, for some reason, it is relatively quiet. I'm sure, though, one day it will come out as to why. Maybe she just needed a break. Now, on June 3rd, it's either a flight or a road trip. Lori goes back to Texas, and I'm not sure what that trip was about, or as I said, if it was a flight or a road trip. I'm thinking a flight because it is a little jaunt from Arizona to Texas. Now, by July 11th, Charles was murdered in their Chandler home. And now there's a busy week for the cult. There's a lot of movement going on. July 15th to 16th, Lori went to Houston with Colby. And in the report, it says, Colby said Lori needed his help to gather some of Charles' personal property from their home in Houston. Colby said he and Lori only stayed one night, arriving on July 15th, 2019, working all through the night and then returning to Phoenix on July 16th, 2019. While in Houston, Colby and Lori gathered a lot of personal property to include Apple Mac desktop computers, Charles' clothing, and JJ's service dog, a black-colored golden retriever poodle named Bailey. Colby and Lori loaded Charles' Ford F-150 pickup truck with property and drove to the airport. Colby and Lori left the Ford F-150 full of property at an airport parking lot. Colby, Lori, and JJ's service dog then flew back to Phoenix. Lori told Colby that Alexander would be coming to Houston at a later date to retrieve the Ford F-150. Now, we know that Lori tried to sell the dog, and the trainer saw the ad for it and said, no, and met up with Lori and took the dog. Now, a little bit about Houston. After Charles died, Charles's kids expressed that they would like Charles' fancy watches, you know, as a keepsake, something of Charles. And Lori came back from Houston and gave them a bunch of crappy, basically inexpensive watches that were basically not Charles. So that's just one of the disappointments, clearly, that was done to these kids. I mean, Lori texted them that Charles died. So it's heartless all around, but I digress. Now, during that week, so Lori and Colby take that trip, but Alex flies from Arizona to Colombia, South America. He goes from the 14th to the 19th. Also, on the 15th, Zulema Pastanes, who would soon become Alex's wife, she travels to Santiago, Chile, and stays for 2 weeks. Now, anyone want to know what Melanie Boudreaux did that week? Me too. How about Chad Daybell? Anyone? Now, while this is all happening, Charles's son Cole and his mom are flying into town. They're trying to figure out just what the heck happened. So a few days after Lori returns from Texas, on the 20th, she buys Chad Daybell a flight from Provo, Utah to Arizona. And it's said that the cost was $259.50. Now you gotta wonder what BS Chad told Tammy to get there. Now here comes flight number 5 for Lori. The week after, on July 29th, Lori travels to Oceanside, California with Alex and Melanie. Now this is interesting. I'm finding documents that just say Alex and I'm finding documents that say Melanie. And I'm thinking all three went. However, stay tuned because I'm not 100% sure. I mean, it does say Melanie and then other documents say just Alex. But this says there are photographs of them there. Now, I wonder why they all went to Oceanside. Was it just for a vacation or was it for more work to be done? Oceanside is a beautiful little area. It's in between San Diego and LA, and it's right on the ocean. Now, there's a few interesting things that caught my eye. Number one, there's an area called the Oceanside Spiritual Triangle, and there's 3 buildings there. There's a monastery, another is a mission, and then one that caught my eye is called Rosicrucian Fellowship. And I may do another separate video on it. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do a separate video on it now that I'm seeing a few things that I'd like to tie into my previous theories, but it did catch my eye. Let me know if you'd like to see that in the comments below. That gives me a good idea if I should do the video or not. Now, there were a couple things about it as well that people were talking or doing articles about a connection to Joseph Smith. And Joseph Smith is the founder and the first president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Also in my research, there's little information, but there was a couple things about Oceanside possessing a powerful vortex in the area and is said to be one of the power centers of the world. If you know about the vortex there, can you please let me know in the comments below? I'd greatly appreciate it. Here comes flight number 6. On August 20th, Lori travels from Phoenix to Idaho under Lori Ryan and back. And JJ and Tylee stays with the babysitter. Now, 2 days later, Lori's apartment in Idaho is off the market, and 3 days after that, Al's is off the market. Now, while she's in Idaho, she and Melanie Gibb begin a new podcast called Feel the Fire. She returns on the 25th of August, and by August 31st, Lori packs up her stuff and moves with Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow to Rexburg, Idaho. She doesn't tell her son Colby Ryan that they are moving out of the city or out of the state. Now, September is a slow month for Lori for travel. In this month, though, we know that Tylee Ryan is brutally murdered, and so is JJ Vallow. On September 19th, Melanie Gibb comes to Rexburg to visit Lori. That's the weekend that JJ was murdered. Now, on October 7th, Lori searches how long to drive to Independence, Missouri. This is 5 days after the attempt on Brandon Boudreaux's life. The next day, on October 8th, Lori travels from Idaho to Phoenix under Lori Ryan. She stays with Melanie Boudreaux at the time. Now, there are photos and videos of Melanie's children that were recovered through Lori's iCloud to reveal that Lori was in fact in Melanie's home. On the 9th, that is also the last time Melanie Boudreaux had seen her kids. Now, Lori and Melanie decide to take a trip. They go to Missouri and return back to Phoenix days later. You'd wonder, since this is more news and info that Melanie traveled more than we thought around with her, you'd think she would naturally ask, "Where's your kids, Lori?" Right? I mean, we saw Melanie talk about that before, and she played dumb to that. But she acted like it was only one circumstance, like, "I don't know where the kids are. I didn't think about it." But here, it's very interesting. All this travel, no idea where JJ is. How about that he's underground? I think she knew that. Let me know your thoughts. Now, as I said, this was almost a week after the attempt was made on Brandon's life, and this was also during the first attempt on Tammy's. And during the trip with Lori and Melanie, there were numerous photos of a place called Adam-on-the-Aman. And according to the teachings of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, this place is the site where Adam and Eve lived after being expelled from the Garden of Eden. It says it teaches that the place will be a gathering spot for a meeting of the priesthood leadership, including prophets of all ages and other righteous people prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ. It's interesting here as well because Alex and Chad are making the attempt on Tammy, the first attempt, but something happened with the gun, it misfired, and Tammy was alive. So on October 13th, Lori flies back to Idaho under Lori Ryan. Now, when Melanie returns from their sacred trip, she texts her then husband Brandon that she's moving and she's heading to Boise, Idaho, which of course is a lie. She moved to Rexburg. On October 18th, there's a deleted message to an unknown recipient that says, "Not sure how long we will be here until our work is done." Police say that this message could be between Lori and a woman named Audrey. Photos of Lori also taken in Hawaii at this time. Now, it has been the chitter chatter that Lori was in Hawaii in October. It was also the chitter chatter that Melanie Boudreaux was also with her in Hawaii. But I haven't seen the confirmation. I think I've seen it actually that she's before more of an official way, but I gotta refer back to my notes. Obviously, after 150 videos on this case, one would think I could remember that, but there's so much to remember and so many people. Now, on October 19th, that's the day that Tammy Daybell died in her sleep, according to Chad Daybell. Now, we know that she was asphyxiated and he's being charged for her death. Now, someone messaged Lori and said, "Hey, Lori, did you hear about Chad's wife? She died." Just, I'm in Hawaii. So pictures, a text, Lori's in Hawaii. And we don't have that as to when she left. There wasn't a document that stated that, but a lot of stuff had been deleted by Lori. Obviously, it was just not able to be retrieved. Now, on October 20th, day after Tammy dies, Lori books a flight from Phoenix to Idaho. But that's for the travel on the 24th of October. She travels from Phoenix to Idaho. So because of this, I had questioned at first, like, wait a minute, she'd be in Idaho. How did she get to Phoenix and Idaho? So what I think that Lori flew from Idaho to Arizona, picked up Melanie, went to Missouri, and then they went to Hawaii, then they got back to Phoenix, and then from Phoenix, Lori goes to Idaho. Now in November, there's flight number 9, and obviously there is possible of a couple other flights because we're not sure if she took a road trip or flew. So this is number 9 according to the documents. On November 3rd, Lori and Chad fly from Salt Lake City to Kauai, and they get married on the 5th on the beach with not a care in the world. And they drive a rental vehicle from Idaho Falls to Salt Lake City. Then they go from Salt Lake City to Kauai. Now, on November 12th, according to documents, there are numerous pictures of Chad and Lori at the Hawaii Temple. And on the 21st, numerous beach photos. Now, they fly back from Hawaii. And I've always wondered, why did they come back? Why not stay in Hawaii, right? There's Charles is gone, Tylee, JJ, Tammy. Why are they coming back? But obviously there's some more traveling to do. November 26th is the welfare check day, and November 28th, that's get the heck out of Dodge day. Flight number 10. On November 28th, Lori and Chad, they go from Salt Lake City to Orange County, and they put that under Chad's name this time. And Chad took his kids to Knott's Berry Farm, and they spent the 28th to the 1st there. Now, this is the same weekend that Alex and Zulema and Melanie and Ian got married. Chad was around $430,000 richer because the death of Tammy, he got a payout, so he celebrated. After their time in California, Lori and Chad on December 1st fly from LAX to Hawaii. And the only adventurous flying that Lori experienced after this is her butt landing back in jail in Idaho. Now, if you want me to do a video again on that ocean side, let me know with a heck yeah Linda below, and I'll dig into that. I think I found something, so you might be interested in seeing that. It seems like every time Lori meets up with Chad, shortly thereafter, there's, all kinds of heck breaking loose. And 2019 is absolutely inconceivable in just one murder, not several. Let's talk about her trips, and let me know specifically also your thoughts on Missouri and on Oceanside. I'm curious. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please like and please share. There's lots more coming. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon. How about every loud vehicle drive by while I'm recording? And only when I'm recording.